Take a breath. I am Lisa Hurley, activist, author, and community builder. Welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, weekly inspiration for self-love and soft living. Hello, folks. Hi, and welcome to Space to Exhale, the podcast, a safe, serene sanctuary where we focus on high vibrations, affirmations, soft living, and self-care. I am your host, Lisa Hurley. I'm a 3-time Anthem Award-winning activist, a Reiki master, and the author of Space to Exhale, a handbook for curating a soft, centered, serene life. I am here to help us all do just that. Relax, take a breath, say no to hustle culture, and yes to a life of ease. My hope and dream is for us all to curate lives that we don't feel we need a break from. Today, I am super excited to introduce you to my guest, Sharon Hurley Hall. Welcome, Sharon. I think you're on mute. That's okay.
Of course I am. Of course I am.
It's all good.
Well, if that is the worst tech snafu we have today, then we're ahead of the game.
It'll be a miracle. It'll be a miracle.
So nice to be here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I feel like we've spent a lot of virtual time together recently, and I'm loving it.
Yes. So, just to let people know who they're talking to, I like to do this, right? So, let me give y'all Mrs. Hurley Hall's bio. So, Sharon Hurley Hall is an author, educator, and anti-racism activist, a former journalist and writer. Sharon is also the author of I'm Tired of Racism, True Stories of Existing While Black. And she's also the author of Exploring Shadism. In addition, Sharon is the founder of Sharon's Anti-Racism newsletter, where she's on a mission to fight racism one article at a time. And she's the founder of the Share Anti-Racism membership community. And what passes for her spare time, and I totally relate to that, Sharon provides mentoring for introverted Black women like myself, like ourselves, and creates courses to help people share their important stories. So again, Sharon, welcome.
Thank you, sis. Thank you, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Whew,
Thank
and we have some things to talk about today.
We sure do. We sure do. And so today we are talking about writing while Black.
Oh,
Writing while Black.
yes,
And
yes,
this is a topic dear to our hearts. Your book, of course, I'm Tired of Racism. The subtitle of it is True Stories of Existing While Black. So a
yes.
subset of Existing While Black is Writing While Black, and we are going to talk about it today. And to give everybody a little bit of context. So Sharon, you and I are both published authors, but we have taken different paths. You have done traditional publishing. I have done trad publishing. And you've done self-publishing. I've done trad
Yes.
publishing. And so my first question is, what led you to choose self-publishing or to go the indie route? And what wisdom can you share with other writers, especially Black writers, who are weighing their publishing options and trying to decide what their author's journey is going to look like?
Ooh, that is a good question. And let me do a shout out to Yinka Yola. I see you're in the room. Welcome, welcome. So I think as you know, I always like to try new things, right? So my first foray into self-publishing really came from me testing out the Kindle Direct publishing technology when it first became available. I was one of these people because I was a writer, and I assumed that at some point I would write a book. I was not rushing to it or anything, but I wanted to try out this technology. And so my very first book, which is no longer available, was a book called Getting Started in Blogging. And what I did was I had done a series of blog posts about how you start your business blog and things you needed to think about. There were 10 posts. I put them together in a short ebook. And I mean, that book sold pretty much from the day I published it until the day I took it offline, because I realized that a lot of the background information was out of date and things had moved on, right? I I think that it is really important, if you are a Black writer, a global majority writer, a writer from an oppressed minority or group, to consider self-publishing. I mean, who would not take a book deal if offered, right, sis? Who would not, right? Right? But at the same time, there are a lot of advantages in that, the publishing establishment, as we both know, is very white. It's very white, it's very male. And so, even though a lot of books are published every year, you will find that people who share our identity are not making up a large proportion of those books. So self-publishing for me was one way to get my words out there without having to worry about the gatekeepers, right? Um, Now, I mean, there are things that you need to do in order to make your book stand out, and we may or may not get to that. But the point is that it offers a way into the market for voices that are not often heard and that might not get that book deal, right? I love it when I see one of my Black siblings getting a book deal, but I'm also painfully aware that that is not the norm. That is not the norm. And now you are muted.
Okay, there you go. Thank you.
So two for two then.
Two for two, two for two. We're gonna get through this. It's gonna be amazing. But yeah, so I'm glad that you talked about that. That the differences, and we're gonna delve into it some more. The differences between self-publishing, trad publishing, and the gatekeepers are real. The gatekeepers are real, and so you're right. Most people who look like us do not even get a shot at getting a traditional deal. And if you are really focused on getting your name, your words, your work out there, then I can definitely see where self-publishing or even hybrid publishing, which I only recently learned about. I didn't even know that was a thing before. you
Yeah,
know right, so I've
yeah,
learned about that within the past couple of years. But since we are here, what I want to do, those of you who've been following the podcast for a while know that normally I do a reading from the book, and myself and my guests and I decide, okay, what reading is it going to be, what will be today's reading, and
yeah.
today normally I do it later in the episode, but because we're here, I want to do a reading from it's actually the chapter on manifestation, but it is about me getting my book deal, which was not, as Sharon just said, it was not foretold. It was not something that I even expected to happen. So I'm going to share that reading with you, and then we are going to come back and talk the things.
Yes, and Yiga has a couple of great comments up there we can highlight after you've done your reading.
Oh my gosh, Yinka. Yes,
Just,
yes, yes. I
just
mean,
to be
whew,
completely transparent, we're doing our own production today.
yes, 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 Yinka.
So bear
I
with
got
us.
you up there, Yinka, because that is so true. Um, I,
Yes,
I, I am I am bound not to reveal much, but all I can say is 100%. That's all I can say on this. Moving on. So let me do this reading and then we'll come back. So this is from chapter 5 of Space to Exhale, and it is called Curate Your Thoughts, Manifest. A manifestation testimony. Where's my book deal? In early 2022, this question was constantly on my mind. It was on my sister's mind too. As activists, we had both been showing up daily on LinkedIn, on our other social media channels, on our blogs and newsletters for more than 2 years, and we were ready to go to the next level. A few of our peers had published books, but for the most part, the book deals seemed to be going to those of a paler persuasion. We were annoyed. We knew that we were just as talented, just as visible, and just as worthy. Not to mention, in most cases, way more experienced. Apart from anything else, we are both professional writers. Writing is literally what we do in our day jobs. We did not begrudge anybody their book deal. We just wanted ours. We wanted us all to get book deals. This was on our minds so much that we recorded an episode about it on our podcast, The Introvert Sisters, called, unsurprisingly, Where's My Book Deal? My sister, always one to forge ahead independently, decided not to wait. I so admire her for this. As an essayist, educator, and professional journalist, she's amazingly prolific. She moved ahead with her plans, opting to self-publish. She had lots of material and could easily produce more since she was in the habit of writing to meet precise word counts and tight deadlines. By the fall of 2022, she had published her second book, I'm Tired of Racism. On my end, I decided that self-publishing was not an option for me. You got to know yourself, and I was clear that I, alas, don't have the laser focus that it takes to self-publish. I knew that I needed structure, the structure I believed working with a publisher would provide. I pushed the book deal idea to the back of my mind and continued living life. I semi-resigned myself to the possibility that I might never publish a book at all, and I let it go. I delved deeper into my activism and got busy with myriad projects. For a while, I truly forgot about my dream of being published, but by January of 2023, I started thinking about it again. I actually began writing my book proposal, but got distracted by daily life. Did I mention that focus is not my strong point? For me, a typical sequence of events looks like this. Let's say I have a goal of folding some laundry. An hour or two later, I might have dusted my baseboards, cleaned my windows, posted on socials, mopped my floors, done the dishes, stalked my Amazon deliveries, recorded some affirmations, and checked my email. But what would remain untouched would be the task I had initially set out to do, tackle the mountain of unfolded laundry. Shout out to ADHD. In addition to general adulting, I had also started the pre-launch process for The Great Exhale. That took all my time and energy. So between balancing that and my 9 to 5, I was at max capacity. But then the universe intervened. I'm a longtime follower of Lovey Ajayi Jones. Yes, that Lovey. 4-time New York Times bestselling author, pop culture commentator, and my sister friend in my head. In the summer of 2023, I came across a post of hers promoting her latest venture, the Book Academy, TBA. She created TBA to teach authors in waiting about the publishing industry and provide guidance on how to get published. I felt like the heavens had thrown me a lifeline. I saw it as a clear sign that my time was coming. I gathered my coins, paid Sis her fee with gratitude in my heart, and got ready for what would become a life-changing experience. As Black women do, Lovey underpromised and over-delivered. The Book Academy was amazing. Gems on gems on gems. Education, inspiration, motivation, validation. It was exactly what I needed. Each module was a masterclass. All meat, no bone. The vibes vibed. The community was supportive. The energy was elevated. It was all love. Lovey followed up the Book Academy's inaugural cohort with her first ever book proposal power program, BPPP. This would be implementation time. We had been taught the theory, and this would be our opportunity to put our lessons into practice. Writing our book proposals would bring us one step closer to being published authors. Having had such a positive experience with the Book Academy, I registered for the BPPP with indecent haste. I might have been the first person to sign up. As soon as they dropped the link, I hopped right on it. It was a no-brainer. This was the structure I was looking for. I knew that it would be a step-by-step how-to guide. I wanted to complete my book proposal, so I availed myself of the divine assistance that had been sent my way. And then the magic happened. This was the sequence of events. September 19, registered for the Book Proposal Power Program. October 9, Victoria Savant from Wiley, y'all, emailed me. October 10, the first BPP session began. Gems, support, inspiration, motivation, cheat codes, occasional but much needed ed snatching. Also on October 10, I started writing my book proposal again. December 12, the book proposal power program ends. Then, being me, procrastination, the holidays, more procrastination. Hey, at least I'm honest. On January 8th, Victoria followed up with me to see where I was with the book proposal. January 31, submitted my book proposal. February 7, the project was greenlit. March 5th, I was signed by Wiley. So, approximately 5 months after starting the book proposal power program, I officially became a signed author. And now here we are, published, y'all. God is good. So,
Whew,
yes, child. Woo!
what a journey! What a
What
journey!
a journey. What a journey. So yes, what in that reading, like what stands out to you or brings back memories or anything? I still remember us actually sitting down in your library on your futon, right? Kind of like scooshed together close, recording this episode. I
I
remember
do
this.
remember that. I
Yeah.
do remember that. You were there. We said, okay, we got to record it. And we were, it was an important question. It was a pertinent question. It was a necessary question at the time. And I also, like, I remember some of this. I remember when you signed up
Mm-hmm.
for the program and you said, sis, this is amazing. Probably just like
Yes,
that.
yes, exactly like that.
And it's like, no, I just, the great thing is, big up to Caribbean education and discipline. Once you sign up for an educational program, you're going to extract every ounce of goodness out of it,
You sure
right?
will.
You
Mm-hmm.
are not, you're not playing. And so I know that you put what was needed into that to come out with what you needed, and you were rewarded for it.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to go back. I mean, I want to go back to the comment that we highlighted earlier because it is true that as a Black author, you don't get the kind of advances. And I'm going to take this one so that you don't say anything that you're not supposed to say. But,
Mm.
because having done some research for my self-publishing workshop, right? Um, some Black authors don't get anything at all, right? They're expected to be grateful, right? They're expected to be grateful for the deal, right? If you're a first-time author, the establishment likes to replicate the establishment. They like to go with what they consider the tried and true, right? And so, as a first-time author, as a Black author, they assume that you're in a supplicant position, shall we say?
Yes,
Right?
yes, yes,
And
yes, yes.
so they're not giving you anything, right? But I have two words for them: Black Panther, right? The movie, right? I have two words for them, right? So don't assume that because something is by a Black author or primarily for a Black audience,
Mhm,
that it is not going to be something that can have widespread appeal.
mhm.
Don't assume that. And I think that a lot of the publishing establishment assumes that, which is why self-publishing becomes an option for many of us. I want to shout out here. Let me see. I saw a comment, I think, from Aurelia, talking about the fact that we need more published Black voices, right?
Yes, yes, we do. We do.
And I think we need them in all spaces. I think cloud publishing, I think self-publishing, the important thing is to get your stories out there. So I would never tell anybody don't take their book deal. But
Mhm,
what I would say is if you are frustrated by the gatekeeping of the very white, very male publishing industry, then self-publishing becomes a valid option. And
right.
it is something that you can do well with the right guidance,
Yes, yes,
for
yes.
sure.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's so much that I learned by going through this process. And to be honest, again, my thing was never because some people, unfortunately for them, to be honest, some people look down on self-publishing. There are
Mm,
so many best-selling books out there that you don't even know are self-published, because people have standards. Listen, they pay for their book cover, they hire a designer, they
They hire
hire
an
let
editor.
us take a little detour to talk about what you have to pay, what you should pay for. Pay
Yes.
for a graphic designer. I know of very few book covers. I can think of two from authors that I know that are self-published and self-designed, that don't look self-published and self-designed, but
Unless
they are the
unless you
anomaly.
are unless you are a graphic designer publishing your book, don't design your cover. Get an expert.
Don't design your own cover.
And
Um,
even if you are a professional editor, you will not see things in your own work. Hire an editor.
Hire an editor, hire a graphic designer, hire an editor, and hire a proofreader, because editing and
Yeah,
proofreading are
two different things.
two
Two
different things.
different things.
Right.
Two different things.
Exactly. One more time, two different things.
Two different things.
And you
Right?
can't, you
Now, and can I
truly,
just say my
yes.
favorite line here? Not your auntie or your sister or your cousin who was good at English.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has the skills in proofreading, the skills in editing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yes. Yes,
Yes,
Evelyn.
yes.
They, they, that,
I'm seeing you here, Evelyn, saying that you have self-published and you hired a book designer and a cover artist. Exactly. That is what one is
yes,
supposed to do, right?
yes,
Ideally.
yes.
Ideally. There are very few people, unless you are a perfectionist and you therefore, and even with that, I mean, I consider myself a perfectionist. And when I tell you I was when I saw mine in layout, I was like, oh,
Well, I'm going to say this, right? Because, I worked as an editor. Hey, thanks, Alexis.
thanks,
And I see
Alexis.
Anta in the house as well. I see Chantel. Shout out to you all. I have been a professional editor. I've been a journalist. I've been a writer. I have been an editor. I've edited books for other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And for my last book is the one where I paid for the professional editing services and the
Mm-hmm.
professional cover design, and it is head and shoulders better in terms of presentation than any other book I have produced before. Now, thanks to my professional skills, my other books were not bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? They were not. I mean, the Exploring Shadism was a research project, which
Mm-hmm.
means that it had already been through several sets of eyes, even though those weren't editors, right?
Yes.
So at least 5 different people had looked at it before it got there.
Mm-hmm.
And Hawkeye Hurley was one of those two.
Yeah.
Actually, so for all those who don't know, that is Lisa, Hawkeye Hurley. Right?
From my proofreading days, I remember
Yeah.
once meeting a client, I guess, a customer from a job I had several jobs ago from a big company, and they were kind of like raving about our copy and so on and so forth. And I introduced myself and I'm like, oh, I'm the copywriter, and he was like, oh my gosh, he said something about the team. I'm like, I am the team. He was like, well, apart from anything else, the copy is great and compelling, but apart from that, I have never seen one solitary error in anything in the past 4 years. And I'm like, well, the past 4 years have been me, so thank you very much. No, I'm not.
That does not surprise me.
I'm not there anymore. The eyes don't work the way they used to. But even with that, even knowing that I at least used to be Hawkeye Hurley, I hired a proofreader twice for this book.
Hmm. Hmm.
Twice.
Hmm.
I had a multiplicity of editors. I had people like my friends who have an editing background, right?
Yes.
Including, might I
Friends
add,
who have an editing background. That's a
yes,
very distinct category from friends who might be
who
good
like
with
who
words,
like
but
books and can read. I love
yes,
books too. That does not qualify you. I'm sorry.
yes, exactly.
It does not qualify
And if
you.
we seem to be harping on about this, it is because it is important. There's a reason why I'm Tired of Racism is a book that looks good on the shelf, that
Mhm.
is, that flows, that people respond to, and that
Yeah.
is because of the investment in the editing and cover design.
Yeah. Your book cover, which if I were if Latrice were here and doing this, we would have the book covers up to show people and whatever. But go
Oh,
to
there it is in the background.
oh, there it is. Yes, it's right there.
There
Oh my
it is in
gosh,
the background.
amazing.
It's right there. It's right there.
Your book cover is so amazing. And it is actually something I've been intending to do this for a few years now, like blow it up as a
Hmm.
poster and hang it in my house. That is how much I love the
Wow.
book cover.
Well,
But that is,
shout out to Dan Walker for that
yeah,
amazing design.
yeah, that
You
is the
know,
beauty of good design, right?
yes,
Anyway,
yes,
so I know we
yeah.
went off. It's not really off topic because it's on topic and it's important. It is about the standards you have for yourself, the standards you have for your work, and what you want. Because books, I've been telling people, books are
Hey,
permanent.
Sam. Yeah,
Books are permanent, right?
yes, exactly.
Hey, Sam, thank you
Exactly.
so
Hey,
much for the
Sam. And
congrats.
thank you, thank you, Alexis. I appreciate that. I appreciate the kudos for my book cover.
Yes.
Um, but yes, I mean, you know, I I think I think it is important for us, particularly as Black women, to know what our options are and to
Mhm.
have the options available. I'm
Yes.
telling you, if somebody comes to me with a six-figure advance, I probably will not tell them no, even though
Right.
I like the control.
Because bills are real. Bills are real, right?
Yeah, yes, but I also know that there are a lot of, for me as a self-published author, right? I keep more of the royalties, I have more control over the project, all those kind of things. So, you have to know what matters to you. Sometimes, as Lisa pointed out, you need that extra structure, but if you're a person who can provide that for yourself, maybe then you don't need to go that route.
Mhm. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Ah,
Body said I love the I hate roasted. Well, I'm tired of racism. Yes, I understand
thank
what
you,
you
thank you,
I,
thank you.
yes, I'm tired of racism. Book cover is absolutely stunning. It really is. So huh, writing is such a monumental I don't even know practice for lack of a
Yes.
better term. And I feel that writing while black is as much about storytelling and being a part of the culture and all of that. And that's very important, but it also is about survival, right?
For
Much of
sure.
what we do as black people, including our writing, is about survival. And so how has your writing helped you process things? How has it helped you survive? How has it helped you emotionally, spiritually, in all the ways?
Well,
Super,
and
super
I know
easy
you.
question, I know.
I know. No, no, no. I know you relate to this. I mean, writing is catharsis. You and I think both have written since we were teens. Not
Yeah.
that everything that we've written has been shared, but it has been always been a way for us to process whatever emotions are going on, what situations we're struggling with. Some of that has made its way into poetry, or in your case, into songs. Some of it has made its way into journal entries. Some of it has made its way into blog posts or newsletter articles, and some of it has made its way into our books,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so sometimes not everything that you need to process makes the final cut in terms of publication. And
Mhm.
sometimes it doesn't need to. Sometimes it is enough that it is written and that you've had a chance to reflect back to yourself in your words, really.
Right. Right.
Um, but yes, I mean, definitely writing about racism takes a toll. And
Hmm.
I know that we talk about this a lot on our Introvert Sisters podcast. We talked about the toll of activism, why it's hard. I think we had an episode explicitly about why activists find it hard, Black activists find it hard.
We did.
Um, and I think the cost is emotional. The cost is the pushback, the gaslighting, the wondering why you're still struggling to pay your bills when you're talking about something that is so important that people say they believe in, right? Okay. Um, but yes, but then the other side of that is over time, and I'm better at this now than I was when I started sort of 5 years ago,
Hmm.
right? And yes, is that over time you learn to find ways to refill your cup a little bit. You learn to um what do you learn to do? You learn to step back sometimes. You learn to head down to the beach sometimes. You learn to watch Bridgerton sometimes. We had an episode about
Listen,
that
take a
too,
break. Take a
right?
break, you know?
To take a flipping break,
Take a flipping
right?
break.
As you say in your book, rest is the new success,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And I think as Black women, and I think you talk about this explicitly in the book, and we've talked about it on the podcast, as Black women, our rest has been pathologized,
Yes.
right? It has been, sometimes it's been deemed laziness.
Mm-hmm.
It's been deemed all kinds of things which have more to do with people's desire to extract from us than to the than with the reality,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so we have to reclaim that. One of the things I read, Rest is Resistance by Tricia Hersey. I listened to while I was off. And so, I can see that that work sits very nicely alongside the work that you have just produced,
Mm-hmm.
right? In terms of here, this is how we rest. This is how we make it a practice. This is how we use affirmations. This is how we use meditation and affirmations and meditation and just, taking a five, as they used to say back in Trinidad,
Right.
right?
Right. Take a five. Take
Right.
a five.
Right. It's just so important for us. I mean, how do you feel, sis?
Uh, I. I mean, well, of course, I agree with. Excuse me. Everything that you just said, and uh, I do feel a weight of. I do feel some responsibility. I do feel the need to balance that responsibility with my own health and well-being, and I am determined to fulfill what I believe is part of a divine assignment, but not to my own detriment. I'm determined to show up in my fullness. I'm
Yes.
determined to be rested. What is it Yinka says? Rich and rest. Is it that is I
Rich
think
and
it's
rested. I think that's her trademark. Rich and
right, rich and
rested.
rested. That is Yinka's trademark. Rich and
And my
rested.
my 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 latest thing is impact without exhaustion.
There you go. Right?
Right.
Impact, right? And then mine added to that is rest is the new success. I also want to go back to something you alluded to earlier about how my work intersects with that of Trisha Hersey. Because can we normalize and excuse me for coughing, folks. I've been staving off a cold for the past couple of weeks, so bear with me. Let us normalize citing people. Let
Oh
us
yes.
normalize research. Let us normalize building upon without extracting from, right?
Exactly.
Because I reference Trisha Hersey in Space to Exhale. I mention rest is resistance. The phrase is in quotation marks. There's a note, right? You understand what I'm saying? Let
I
us
do. I do. Let us stop the extraction. We see it so often. You're there minding your own business on the digital streets, and you say, "But wait, didn't I say that? Didn't that person say that? Who is
yeah.
this? Who is this non-melanated person that is suddenly claiming this work, right? Because and this is another reason why it is important for us to tell our stories, as Evelyn points out here. Honor our ancestors, honor the
Yes.
people that didn't get the chance to express themselves, but also tell our stories so that they are there attributed with our name, so that when people are doing their research, they can find out who actually said a thing. Right?
Yes. Because that is important, and it's people might not know the relation between what is going on in the world right now and writing or publishing our own stories. But this is actually a prime time.
Mm,
This is a prime time because we're seeing that black and brown voices and marginalized voices in general are being erased. Right? I
yes.
think back to basically stories, not stories, I mean these are events that happened, of books being burned back in the day, during the world wars, right?
Mhm.
And we're not going to say the H word. We're not going to say that, right, that mention that person. But you know what I'm referring to. And so we are actually back in those days. History is repeating itself, and that is why more and more of us need to publish, and that is why um, whether you choose to go the trad route or the self-publishing route or hybrid, the goal should be to get your words and your voice and your story and your narrative out there as you want it. And
Exactly.
let me just say, so something that you and I have talked about many times, sis, is one of the major differences, I think we're in your self-publishing masterclass,
Yes, that's
right?
right. Yeah.
Right? Which well, first of all, can we just pause? Can you tell people a little bit about that? Just a smidge, putting you on the
Yes.
spot.
Okay. So my self-publishing masterclass was created to help people who normally can't get their voice out there get the information they need about self-publishing to avoid some of the pitfalls, to avoid wasting five-figure sums and then not getting the book that they wanted.
Hmm.
Right? It talks about everything that I have learned since 2008, which is when I first self-published. So in 17 years is in that masterclass. I talk about the publishing um, landscape. I talk about how much money you can make. I talk about, the royalties. I talk about what you need to spend your money on. Same things we just said, but I go into more detail. I share my real stats in that
Yes.
class. And
Yeah.
then actually, I've delivered it live a few times, and I'm going to make it available for streaming within the next week.
Hmm.
Um, and so, this is not this is not a free product because free is cancelled,
Free
but it is
scandals
a
now and forever.
quality product, right? I listen, everything that I have learned,
Hmm.
everything. And Lisa, you can attest to this because you were in one of the sessions, and I know there are people in the chat that were in the sessions as well. They can attest
Yes.
to the fact that it is jam packed with the
Yes.
stuff that we need to know, so that you can make informed decisions. That is the point. You can make informed decisions about which is the right option for you, and you also know what are the things that you need to think about, and where you can save and where you need to spend.
Yes. And
Yes, anyway.
all of that is important. All of that is important
Yeah,
because on what I excuse me, what I said during the masterclass, because somebody asked, okay, well, Sharon, you're self-published, Lisa, you're trad published. And of course you're the big sis, and everybody knows I'm always trying to follow you. But I think I explained in the excerpt that I read why I did not do self-publishing.
yeah,
Had I been living in Barbados, like, in your house or right next door to you, I would probably have self-published. But I was like, I don't think I can do this on my own. I need support. Now that is another tale for another time. But what I will
indeed.
say, what I will say is that to me, the difference between self-publishing and trad publishing is that trad publishing is like self-publishing, but with better distribution. And by
Mm,
which I mean, the other day someone said to me, "Hey, I'd like to buy your book in Spain," right?
hmm.
You best believe I found, Amazon.sp or whatever .es, sorry,
Yes,
.es.
yes, yes.
I was like, wait, Espanol. We're speaking Spanish
Yes.
here, not English. Yeah, Amazon girl. Too many languages floating around in there. Yes,
Yeah.
Amazon.es. Found the link. I have
Yeah.
found book. The book is available. Space Exhale is available in Japan and Sweden and Denmark and
Yeah.
I don't know, Zimbabwe, all kind of places, right? So you
Yeah.
get global distribution. That is pretty much unbeatable, right? I'm planning to dip out with a couple of friends of mine at some point. Um, hey Alexis, and and go and see if the book is in a Barnes and Noble because it probably is. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, 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 yes.
Right. And
And
I don't have to
even
do anything to make that happen.
yes.
Right.
Right. Now, when you're doing the self-publishing route, you have to do a little more to make that happen. That is also available to you. It can be harder work, right? And of course, when the other major difference, of course, is in the majority of cases, although not in all, the publisher will provide the editing services and the design services. Now, sometimes if you want something that is not reflected, if they don't get your vision, you may still end up go doing your own cover design or hiring an additional editor. You may still end up doing that, even though you have a book deal. And
Hmm.
at other times, everything, all the stars align. And so you don't have that spend. You might still
Right.
not be getting an advance, but you don't have that spend.
Right.
There is a cost to self-publishing,
Hmm.
but if you want your book baby to be beautiful, it is a cost worth paying.
Yes. Yes. And I will say, unless you are an author, excuse me, who has gotten like a mega deal, I'm talking multiple six figures or something like that, like money that is livable on. Unless
Mm,
you have gotten that, even if you do get an advance, it probably won't be that much, and you will still have to uh, you'll still basically have to hire various services. Right now, for me, this book was very important to me, especially since I was not sure I would ever write another book, and so I was determined to make this the best book I could possibly make. In case if this is my artifact that I leave to the world, let it be a beautiful and worthy one.
And it is. And it is.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And so I, like I said, I paid up above and beyond what was provided by the publisher, and they did provide proofreading support, editing support, and so on. I still, hired additional people because I'm like, no, I need this double and triple checked to make sure, right? And so that was just my choice, and I chose to invest in that way. I've also invested in marketing very
Yes,
heavily in marketing. And
yes, yes,
this
yes.
this is something that I think it
Whew.
was in the last post that I did just before we logged on here, about people think that the writing of the book is the hard part, right? But if you are a writer, the writing, if you are a writer, the writing is actually the easy part. The
People have
hard
asked
part,
me this.
right?
People have asked me this too. And it's like, the writing was not the hard part. I
Mm,
mean, you mean it's the hard part in the sense it's hard emotionally
mm-hmm,
because you're putting yourself on the page. But for us, it's not hard technically,
mm-hmm.
right? I would say. You agree?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes.
It's not hard
Yes.
technically. I mean, and we can only speak from our perspective,
Yes.
right?
Because
Uh,
we're writers. We've been writers for decades.
yes, yes, yes. We've been writers for decades. We have, we grew up writing. I mean, you said in our teens, but I'm like, I think it was before that. I
Well,
mean,
actually, you started writing at the age of 2, as we revealed in your book launch.
yeah, right.
You started
We
writing
started.
before you could actually write. You started composing
Yes,
creative work before you could actually hold a pencil,
yes, yes, yes.
right? So you've
Right.
actually been writing longer than I have.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I had not even thought about that. And I still
Yeah.
remember our notebooks filled with we went through a limericks phase. I don't know if you remember
Oh, I
that.
remember that.
We
I
had
do. I do.
yeah, full of limericks. We got into, I don't know, I guess we were introduced to them, and we were just like sit down. We were, yes, complete nerds. We would sit down clad in our, coat bottom glasses, right? Coat bottom glasses, and compose our limericks. But we were having a blast, you know?
Yes.
But right,
Yes. Yes.
it's like you think that the writing is hard, but if you have been writing as long as we have, um, it comes relatively naturally. Yes, there is some shaping that you have to do and so on,
Mhm.
and refining, but the actual act of writing, particularly for the two of us, because in addition to writing in our off time, we both wrote professionally. You were
Mhm.
a journalist. You
Yes.
were and not just a journalist, but then a journalism professor, right?
Mhm.
And then a professional blogger. When I say professional blogger, like you were paid. Remember
Yes.
Get Paid to Write Online?
I do remember Get Paid to Write, and that ran for 7 years. That
Yes.
ran for 7 years, and then of course you did marketing, writing, and you did it for book publishers too, as I recall.
Yeah.
One of your main
Rodale.
employees was a major, right? And so it is really, and it is really no exaggeration to say that writing is in our blood,
No, no, no. It is
right?
not. It really is part of our legacy.
Yes,
Um, I mean, we are the daughters of a librarian and and a writer, right? So it's
yes.
the books and the writing and all of that is just it's in our genes. And
But
now
as
now
you
that we're
as you Oh, no, yeah, I know you're going to go on to legacy, but I want to come back to the point that you were making
yes,
about the necessity of investing in marketing. And
yes,
when I say investing, right, now we have taken two different routes because you have actually invested cash. I had no cash to invest. I invested time and sweat
hmm
in
hmm
marketing, in making sure that in the month before the book came out, I was publishing about that book every day. In the 2 years that it took me to get it from idea to reality, that I was talking about the process. You know, even now, in appearing at events, in turning up to places, in speaking, and so on. and also for in your case, I believe, sis, in actually getting some marketing support from professionals. Now, I will always say that this is not something that you absolutely have to do as a self-published author. Invest first in making the book as good as it can be.
Yes. Agreed.
Invest in making the book look as good as it can in terms of the cover and design.
Hmm.
And then if you have budget left, you can invest in marketing. Otherwise, follow writers who know what they're doing and replicate,
Yes.
right? And
Yes.
replicate. Oh, I
Yes.
see we have a great question.
We have
Did
a
you want
great
to add
question.
anything more about marketing before we get to that
No,
question?
let's move on to this. So, how does one determine? This is a great question. How does one determine? Thank you, Alexis. Whether they go the trad or self-published route, and so I'll answer. Then I'll kick it to you,
Yeah,
Sharon.
sure.
So again, my decision, excuse me, my decision was really a matter of personality, right? I knew that I needed support and assistance with focus. I needed somebody to say, this is your deadline and we need it now. And I thought that if I left myself to self-publish, that the book would never come out because I would not be able to stay focused. And that has nothing to do with, now can I write? Absolutely, I can write. But being able to write and being able to complete are two different things, right? That is why there are myriad, there are unfinished book proposals and unfinished books littered, even might I add, in my on my own hard drive, right? Because completion can be an issue for many people. I knew, but I also knew, look, if I have somebody that I have made a commitment to, that I have a contract with, that there are, dates and timelines and deliverables involved beyond my own imagination, then I will actually complete it. So that was the decision making process for me. For other people who want to go trad publishing, it can, I mean, let us be honest. There is a measure of I'm forgetting my words right now, but there is some,
People, it has a certain cachet,
thank you. Yes, yes, yes,
right? It
yes,
has a certain cachet, trad publishing.
yes, it does.
I do believe that the gap is narrowing,
Hmm.
especially because most books are purchased online now, and digital publishing is such a huge thing. So now that it is possible to produce a quality self-published book, back in the day, the early days of self-publishing, you could tell a self-published book from a self-published book,
It was
right?
like a upgraded pamphlet. It was like, oh,
Yes. But when you invest in the right things, people cannot tell the difference. And if your book is a quality book, your book is a quality book, right?
mhm.
So people will pick up my book and they'll say, "Oh, who's your publisher?" And then they're
Yeah.
surprised when I tell them it was self-published,
And
right? And
can I just say, your book feels so good. I remember the first time I got it, and I was like, the cover is just satiny and soft, and I don't know. I'm a book nerd, so that those things, the tactile aspect of a book that feels good, that is published on decent stock. The hardcover is a good hardcover. All of that matters to me because I'm a book person. It might not matter to everyone, but it matters to me.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, so in terms of going the self-publishing route now,
Mhm.
I had by the time I came to write I'm Tired of Racism, I had already self-published five or six other books. Some of them were blog post collections from my Get Paid to Write online blog. One of them was two different editions of a writing workshop that I had delivered, and then the Getting Started in Blogging, which I updated once, right? And so there was a point at which I was thinking about going with a small indie publishing, like a new imprint, which was Black owned. And
Of
so
course.
we batted that back and forth for a while, and then for reasons beyond anybody's control, it looked like it wasn't going to happen. And at that point, it never actually occurred to me to do anything than to go back to self-publishing. I said, all right, well, I tried. I thought to myself, let me do my book, right?
Yeah.
And so because I had content ready from my newsletter, um, I started putting things together. I had some pieces I hadn't published that I wanted to include in the book. I put all those together. I made a table of contents. I did a little bit of editing. I let people know that I was doing it. Then, it seemed to me that that was The sense of but because by the time I had spent a year faffing around trying to figure out whether this other thing was going to work, I said, I want to get the book out. The book needs to be out. I
Yes.
can't go the trad route now, otherwise I'm looking at another year, 18 months before the book comes out.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, if I decide to do it myself, then this book can be out this year.
Yes, yes, and
And
that
so,
is an important consideration. The timelines, excuse me,
yeah,
the timelines are very, very important because if you want to get your book out now, self-publish.
yeah,
That's it in a nutshell. If you have a little bit more, if you can give yourself a little bit more time and you are not tied to, I don't know, maybe a 3 month turnaround and you can give yourself like 6 months, maybe do it with go the hybrid publishing route.
yeah.
But trust and believe. This has taken me, I don't even know how long, but it's been years, essentially.
Hmm.
Like Space Exhale just came out, but I didn't just start writing it. I actually started writing it years ago. That's a whole nother topic. But in
Hmm.
terms of, I mean, you all heard what I read just now, right? It's been well over a year to 18 months, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to bear that in mind. You have to be prepared to wait, right? And there's nothing wrong with waiting. There's nothing wrong with
No,
waiting,
no,
and
no.
neither is there anything wrong with wanting your book out now and deciding to make that happen. And what I really admire and respect about you, sis, is you are like, I am not waiting for anyone, right? Now,
Yeah.
I do think you had an advantage because again, your professional expertise. You
Yeah.
actually back in the day, you used to I don't think, well, people don't know where cut and paste came from. Cut and paste used to be actual scissors and glue, okay, and tape.
I worked with a paper that used to use that,
Exactly, right? So
right?
and this is just to say all these things that we do, the cut and paste and all that stuff. That used to be an actual thing that human beings did by hand. And so you have the craft and the knowledge of how to actually lay out when you're fighting for column inches and the layout and
Hmm.
and no widows and no orphans and whatever other things. It is a
Old
real skill.
school, old school, old
Old
school.
school, but the old school stuff. And I'm all for, look, we're in the age of AI now, and we're there, and it has its advantages. I also think that people like us who came up old school have an advantage as well, because we know if anything breaks, we know how to do it old school. We know how to do it
We
old
do.
school. We know we have that foundation, right? And so
We do.
that's why you were able to, I think, so easily and so excellently. Well, I'm saying easily, but it might not have been, right? I understand.
You want to hear about an easy self-publishing project? I did, right. I had decided that I was going to do exploring shadism because right, I had done this research and I thought, oh, one day I'll publish it, but I don't know when it's going to be because, of course, talk about gatekeeping. There's also black in the ivory, right? So, right. So,
For
but
people who
then
don't know what Black in the Ivory is, can you explain that to them?
Black in the Ivory is about black academics in the academic ivory tower, right? It's about the gatekeeping that you get as a black academic as well, right?
Mhm.
And so I knew that I wanted to publish the research. It was not possible, but then we had digital publishing technology. Yes, Evelyn. And can I just shout out to Evelyn? She and I worked together years ago in my early days of freelancing. So really
Wow.
pleased to see her back here in the audience
Yes.
and around the place.
Yes.
Yes, and so that old school thing explains a lot about skills, success, determination. Anyway, let me not go off on a tangent. But the point was that I had this research paper that had been through several sets of eyes, and I said, okay, I want to make an ebook out of it. And when I was making the ebook, it was around the time when Amazon started letting people put print publications. So I had laid out my ebook, and they said, do you want to do a paperback book at the same time? I said, well, hell yes.
Of course.
Press the button. But that was a weekend project because basically I had it there. It was it
Everything
was it
ready.
was a master's research project. I had the entire text ready. All I needed to find was the copyright thing and the cover design, which I did myself because I found the perfect image. So
Mm,
I don't know who designed the original image. I think I credited where the site that I got it from, right? Um, but that was luck. I don't think that generally I would advise that people trust to that kind of luck,
yeah.
right? I would advise that you hire a designer,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I agree. But
Yeah,
again, you know, it- again, you had an advantage because of
I did.
your professional credentials and experience.
Yes.
So
So if you, as I think we have been saying, if you have a book in you and you're desperate to get it out, there are multiple routes that you can choose.
mhm,
If you are brand new, if you are Black, global majority, disadvantaged in any way, you have an uphill battle with the trad publishing route,
mhm,
right? Unless you happen to hit the zeitgeist at the precise time when people are talking about the thing that you are publishing on. That
yes.
aside, then self-publishing might be a better option. But self-publishing done right with your editing, with your cover design, right? You know,
Professional.
be be self-aware about your skills. That's what I would say. Right?
That was so elegantly put.
Look, I am not. I can use Canva, but I'm not a graphic designer,
Nope. Nope.
right? So I'm not designing my book cover in Canva.
It
I'm hiring
never
a designer.
occurred to me to design my own book cover. I
Right.
went to the same person who, did the branding for The Great
Hmm.
Exhale,
Hmm.
Rose Reynolds, and
Yeah.
she was
Shout out
actually
to
at my,
Rose.
yeah, shout out to Rose. She's amazing. Please hire her. But I immediately, I'm like, oh, I know exactly who I want to design my book cover. It's
Hmm.
going to be Rose.
Yeah.
Period. Right?
Yeah.
Hire experts if and when
Yes.
you can.
If I
Hire
The
them.
next time I do a book, I will be going first to Cynthia Williams from Dragonfly Editorial, a brilliant Black woman who edited I'm Tired of Racism.
Hmm.
Right? So there
Yeah.
you go.
And I met a wonderful developmental editor through Wiley. Um,
Hmm.
hey Adobe. So I definitely plan, excuse me, in the future, when I have other projects, to hire her for her various skills, but especially editing, right? Because we,
Yes.
we believe we believe in hiring the experts. Um, Something else I want to say about trad publishing is that you need to really, really be clear about yourself and your voice and what you want to put out there, because
Mm,
trad publishing will try to make you fit into a box. Now, if you happen to fit into a box, that's great,
great.
right? Go into the box and enjoy
But if
yourself.
you don't want to be homogenized and steamrollered,
Yeah. I was
you have
determined.
to,
I'm like, I am not letting anybody all lives make me all lives matter my book. My book,
right?
it's absolutely not going to happen. And
But you
so
have to have a certain internal strength as a first-time author in order to hold that line. And I
yes.
think I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, being of a certain age and stage probably helped you more to have the confidence to make that definitive um to make the definitive word about what was you and what was not you.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. You start giving fewer F's, pardon my language, about being liked, right? It's like,
Yeah.
do you want to be liked or do you want your book to be good? Now, if you can achieve both, that's great. Right?
Mhm.
But to
Yeah.
me, my goal was, I want a book out in the world that I am 1,000% proud of, and that represents me and my family. And as you mentioned earlier, our legacy, our legacy of being published authors.
And
I tell
it's
tell tell
strange.
tell the people a bit about our legacy of being published authors, sis.
Tell the people the legacy.
Tell
Well,
the
our
people.
father, our father is an academic who specializes in French, African, and Caribbean literature, and he has published 3 books, authored and edited, and so on. Beyond the Veil is one that I remember off the top of my head, but there are others. He's a storied academic,
Yes,
shall we
yes,
say? right?
Yes.
So that is the legacy. I have my two books in print at the moment. Tarot, and Lisa has Lisa
Listen, I'm
has
the baby, so I take that with pride.
and Lisa has the newest addition to our book family tree, Space to Exhale. And so, it's a point of pride that we're upholding a family tradition. It's a point of pride that we are contributing to Caribbean authorship with something that represents us. And I may I just say that I feel the same about I'm Tired of Racism, right?
Yes.
This is the best book I have produced. It is a
Mm-hmm.
book that I am proud to claim authorship of and to show as my work,
Yes.
right?
Yes. That's
And I
important.
think everybody deserves to have that book, whichever route you go. Everybody deserves to have that book,
Yeah, I agree.
right?
So as I know we're just about just about close to time, but I wanted to ask you one last question. So
Hmm.
how does writing give you space to exhale?
Woo! Writing gives me space to exhale because it allows me to process the emotions and the feelings. It allows me to, when you process something in writing, then you can breathe, then you can exhale,
Mhm.
then you can decide what you're doing with it next. It
Mm.
it provides it provides a pause. It allows you to reflect, and so writing is crucial to my well-being. Honestly, I don't know how it is for you.
Oh my gosh, same, absolutely the same. And it helps me, excuse me, excuse me, it helps me process. I mean, you know me well, sis. I always have all the big emotions, right? I have big
Hmm.
feelings about and big opinions about everything. And so it helps me process a lot of that out of my brain and out of my cells, so that I'm not holding on to it. It is a creative outlet which naturally provides space to exhale. Because you feel so fulfilled when you've created something, and just between you and whatever God you believe in, you're like, I did good work. This is good. This is good. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah,
And that is such a
yeah,
beautiful feeling. And that feeling of self pride gives you space to exhale,
it
right?
does.
And
Agreed.
this is a big one. And actually, I'm going to pull up our affirmation of the day, right? Again, both of us have mentioned this, in that it gives us permission to express our authentic voices. And so today's affirmation is, I am giving myself permission to express my authentic voice. That is it. I'm giving myself permission to express my authentic voice. And one more time, I am giving myself permission to express my authentic voice. Now, because I was scattered at the beginning of the episode, I completely forgot to do our breath work. So before we sign off today, we are going to sign off by taking a few deep breaths together. We're going to take a collective breath, and then we're going to sign off and go and exhale. We're going to exhale collectively now, and then we'll go and exhale separately. So close your eyes, relax your shoulders, relax your jaws, relax your eyebrows and your forehead. Inhale through your nose for 3, and exhale. And inhale and exhale. And inhale and exhale. Okay, and with that, everyone, thank you so much to everyone for joining Sharon and me on Space to Exhale, the podcast. Tune in every single Tuesday for here on LinkedIn Live to catch the vibes. And if you can't make the live show, that's not a problem. Just subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and YouTube to catch the replay. And if you want to dive deeper into what we discussed today, definitely get a copy of Sharon's book, I'm Tired of Racism, and also get a copy of my book, Space to Exhale. They're both available on Barnes& and Noble, Amazon, and wherever books are sold. And to stay in touch, follow us both on LinkedIn and check out Sharon HH. I hope I have that right, Sharon. SharonHH.com, and check me out on spacetoexhalebook.com. So goodbye for now. And remember, you are worthy of rest, you are worthy of love, and you are worthy of having time and space to exhale. Bye bye, and I will see you next week.